What happened in Minnesota is absolutely tragic. There's no other way to look at it. You can't spin it any other way. That is what it is. There was loss of life, and I think on both sides, there's potentially some questions and some issues, and everybody was super quick to jump at it. That's why I didn't pump out any videos about it, because I wanted to see where everybody landed. And boy, did they land all across the map. Now, before we get into that, I want to kick things off today with a word of the day. Today's word of the day is
insurrection.
Insurrection, an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. What we have in Minnesota, doesn't matter how you feel about it, is literal insurrection. You have American citizens who are acting and revolting against civil authority and an established government all at the same time. And Minneapolis PD has been told to stand down. So they're not even going out there trying to protect their citizens. They're letting their citizens do whatever they want, and they are reaping the consequences. Now, I've seen a lot of videos and a lot of angles going on with the situation that happened on Saturday. The loss of Preddy was tragic, like I said in the beginning. There's a lot of angles. It's 2026. We still have the grainiest videos out there. I mean, I have an old iPhone 13. If I take that thing and zoom 10x, it doesn't look that grainy. So I think we need to have a conversation with these people that are out there first and foremost. You need to be checking your camera settings. You need to take the camera and just take a little cloth and just maybe rub the lens, because your greasy face has been touching it for months and you don't clean your phone apparently. So let's get better at having crisp, clear video when we want to present something to social media, present something to the public, because it just looks awful. Now, here's one video that I found that has an interesting angle. It's not terrible video quality. You have to get over the whistles. Using whistles is horrific when you're trying to video something. That's all you really hear. But this angle shows what could have potentially led up to the events and what may be the answer of the real root cause of it. So let's listen and then react. Take a look. Now, the guy in gray, everybody's seen the guy in gray. He's the man that reached in and pulled the firearm away and started to walk away with the firearm. And then you hear the shot. Now, this firearm has the potential to accidentally discharge because it doesn't have a physical safety on it. And when you have a firearm without a safety on there, if it's any kind of a light trigger, hair trigger, if the trigger's been modified in any way to make it easier to fire, it can accidentally discharge. And I think that's what happened here. I believe that this weapon fired as he was removing it and leaving, and that is what caused the tragedy that we saw. Now, a couple things here. They did shout gun, gun, gun. That's one thing that I've seen spreading all over the place. They shouted gun, gun, gun. That's where it became important for them to get this weapon. As a legal gun owner in Minnesota, you went through a 12-month-long course to obtain your concealed carry permit. It's the longest course I've been able to find for any state around, which would probably include the fact that you have to have identification in the state of Minnesota. And Tim Walz has outwardly come out previously stating such, that you must have identification on you in order to carry a concealed weapon. So one could make the argument that he failed to do so. I've seen people complain that they stole his wallet. But what led up to this is the fact that he did have a weapon. They removed it, and I think it accidentally discharged. and there was no communication once the weapon was removed. And that's one big flaw, and I'm not going to let them get away with that one. Communication is key, especially for law enforcement when you're dealing with weapons and people and different things. And so you identified that there was a weapon, but you didn't clear. You didn't clear it. You grabbed it and you left. You didn't give your guys around you the all clear. And so the guy in the gray, he's ultimately to blame for this. I'll put that out there. He is to blame for this. Gun accidentally discharged, fine. It can happen. But to not clear the gun that was in question, that's a problem. And that's what resulted in this. That's my opinion of it. But anyway, I digress. What's really interesting to me is that Mr. Frey seems to be super concerned with homicides happening in Minneapolis, and that he doesn't want his law enforcement going and helping out ICE, Border Patrol, whoever it is, go after immigration laws and uphold those laws. He wants them preventing homicides. He specifically says that as of January 28th, this morning, an X post. And if this statement right here, very simple, just a few words, I want them preventing homicides. If that was the case, then in my opinion, you would have your law enforcement out there making sure that your citizens stay safe. You would have your law enforcement agents out there making sure that everything remains peaceful, things don't get out of hand. Imagine if you had some law enforcement officers in the area that were assisting to make sure that the protests don't get out of hand, to make sure that citizens are abiding and not impeding what is going on, whether they agree with it or not. If a law enforcement agent was in between the Border Patrol agents and that citizen, would that event happen? Let's talk about that in the comments. Now, since everything has gone on with Minnesota, I've seen some crazy things. And the reason that the word of the day is insurrection is because that's exactly what we have in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. They are destroying hotels because they believe ICE is staying there, even if they're not. And you know what ICE is doing? They're protecting the property. It's not their job to do that, but they are. They're keeping them from completely destroying it. I mean, you can fix a couple broken windows, but to go in and destroy an entire place of business because you've got two agents staying there, it's absurd. And we could absolutely call the Insurrection Act. Now, this was rather interesting, and it's circling around X. I thought it was fun. We're going to listen and then react.
There's smoke grenades that initially came out. I know the smell of smoke. Not sure what just happened there. But you guys can see the amount of crap that's now on the ground out here.
He's not sure what just happened. Protesters are being blessed for showing up. This man was just given the blessing of being able to walk again. It's a miracle. How did he do that? Because it's not real. There are things that are happening that are just not real. They are paid. This might be a good representation of that. Now, on the heels of everybody shouting for FAFO and seeing how people react to things, brings us straight on back to Minnesota, where you have an individual who didn't listen to the things that their mother taught them when they were younger. Listen to see what I mean.
Nada. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Do you remember when you were young and you were taught to not touch things that don't belong to you? Well, that flashbang that you decided to pick up off the side of the road before it went off is one of those instances. It didn't belong to you. So why'd you pick it up? Just because it's considered less lethal doesn't mean that it can't cause damage. And that is a direct reflection of FAFO. You chose to not listen to the teachings of your parents growing up. I learned that very clearly. If it doesn't belong to you, don't touch it. If I saw a random flashbang sitting on the ground, I'm not going to touch it because it doesn't belong to me. let some other schmuck come along and pick it up and blow their fingers off. Now, this individual's got a GoFundMe. Last time I checked, they raised a whole $27 out of the $50,000 they were looking to obtain for cosmetic surgery and very expensive prosthetics. And so I think what we may have here is a little bit of a learning lesson on both sides. It seems as though Democrats aren't rushing to go put fingers on this poor woman, and Republicans aren't doing the same either. So maybe we've seen a little bit of common sense here. If you see something on the ground, maybe you shouldn't pick it up. Now, all this leads me to one reaction that just keeps popping up no matter what happens. It doesn't matter who it happens to, but there's always those certain individuals that feel the need to turn this around and make it about themselves. Isn't that amazing? Do you need sympathy or what are you looking for exactly? Maybe you can help me out. Let's watch and then react.
They executed that man. They held him down and they fucking murdered him. They fucking murdered him on the street.
And that's what you continue to get. You get these people that turn it around on themselves. They're hysterically crying. You can be sad and upset, but to sit here and make a physical recording like this, and it happens over and over and over again. Why do we feel the need to record these reactions? If that's your true reaction, how could we tell? You've never really posted a video publicly before. So we can't tell whether you're BSing us or you're actually serious. Either way, it's kind of a bad look. Just don't do it. That's just my 2 cents. You can think what you want. And now I think we'll cap it off with this. We're going to go back to 2010 when Barack Obama was making a press statement about immigration and deportations. Back in a time when, for Democrats, deporting illegals was okay.
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion that drives this argument. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally. Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship.
Beautifully said. I wish that they would turn that into a billboard, maybe an advertisement on YouTube. You know, back then, it was totally okay. We need borders. We need to keep illegals out. We have due process. Make them follow that. And today they want to continue allowing illegal immigrants across our border without due process, without abiding by our laws. And they want the ones that came in here illegally over the last 4.5, 5 years to stay here. Well, that's all we've got for today. Everything going on in Minnesota falls back on the word of the day, insurrection. There is an insurrection going on in Minnesota. Do we think that we have seen the worst of it yet? Or is it about to get even worse? Let's talk about that in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed the chaos. Subscribe if you're new here. And we will catch you on the next one.